assist when you have such a large population in a situation of life-saving.
Well, it's still hard to know exactly what is going on inside the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, but let's look at claims by Israel that Hamas has a control centre there. Well, I'm joined now by John Spencer, the chair of Urban Warfare Studies at the Modern War Institute and a former US soldier. Now, John has studied the Hamas tunnel network and is an expert on the difficulties of military warfare. Very good to have you with us here on BBC News, John. Let me ask you this. You saw our colleague Lucy Williamson's report. She was taken in to Al-Shifa by the Israeli military. She didn't see any tunnels itself. But when you watch that report, does it give you any more indication of what exactly is going on?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it indicates that the IDF have moved into a very small section of the overall complex. There are multiple buildings, and that MRI building that that she was brought into and other journalists have been brought into is just literally like one of the very small sections of the Shifa hospital, and how much more is still to be conducted in the operation, to be honest.
And what can you tell us, as someone who studied the Hamas tunnel network, what more can you tell us about them, their size, their extensiveness, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they're believed to be expansive, from quotes of 300 miles or 500 kilometers, from 15 feet down to 300 feet underground, 20 stories underground, that open up into major, basically open areas from bunkers to headquarters, that travel the full length of the Gaza Strip. And what's reported, and I think it will be significant if they do not find them, to include tunnel complexes that run purposely underneath protected sites like hospitals, schools, mosques, and it's particularly the Shifa hospital.
One thing I was reading that you'd written about these tunnels before is you talk about the unique tactical challenges that these tunnels present, many of which you say cannot be addressed without specialist equipment. You're talking about things like how difficult it is to breathe without an oxygen tank in the tunnels because of their depth and the lack of ventilation. And also, you say it can be simply impossible to see. So these are the sort of challenges that the Israeli military would have to contend with if this network of tunnels, as they say, does exist under the hospital.
Absolutely. And the fact that the hostages are known to be in tunnels. I mean, the only ones that have been released said that I was in a tunnel and it looked like a spider complex. So yeah, absolutely. And the booby traps. The IDF have already lost 5 soldiers who entered a tunnel and it exploded on them. And this is one of the reasons that you see them very slow to respond to tunnels that they find, to include digging not where the tunnel enters. They'll dig in between where they think the tunnel is to basically enter the tunnel from a direction that the people who booby trap the tunnels won't expect.
And what tactics, I mean, you've written again, you say Israel have developed special tactics for dealing with tunnels once they are found. What are those special tactics then?
Special tactics include sending robots in first, sending dogs in first, trying to see what's in the tunnel beforehand, developing specialized equipment and personnel. So the night vision that I talked about that you use, weapons that have suppressors so you can actually fire in them, tactics to even seal a tunnel hole with a sponge forming device that seals a small opening. There's a bunch of tactics. But the last resort is sending a soldier into one.
And what are the challenges in terms of access, given that comms is tricky now?
Yeah, I mean, no communication system or navigation system that works on the surface works underground, because there's no line of sight, there's no GPS, there's no satellite. You have to have equipment that basically talks to itself, or run like old-fashioned hard wire with you down there to communicate.
And another thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on, again, you've talked about how other countries have similar tunnel networks. You talked about was it North Korea and also in Iraq. Tell us about how those tunnel networks compare with what you know about Hamas's.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in North Korean invasion tunnels that are left open in South Korea to people to go down and see. I mean, and in Iraq, we encountered tunnels in Iraq and Syria, and ISIS used tunnels to stay protected from aerial observation and strike. But Hamas's tunnels are much more expansive, more analogous to like the London Metro than they are a tactical tunnel that you might see in other areas of the world. In the depth that they go in and how long they are, how far they reach from the top of the Gaza Strip to literally the Egyptian border. The expansiveness. There's major differences, and also they're very narrow in comparison to other tunnels. Even the Hezbollah tunnels I've been in North Israel, Hamas tunnels are very narrow, which present a different challenge, since you can only walk down them one person at a time for militaries to deal with.
OK, John Spencer, thank you very much for sharing your very personal first-hand experience and insight on that.